for Cancer. This one's actually just for a short period of time. I thought I would do something around the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'm going to say roughly 2 weeks. Again, some of the timelines might vary a little bit. Some of it may go a little further out depending on how you work through issues and all of that. But what I'm going to say here overall is the timeline, like I say, is relevant to you, but you're not all making decisions on the same day, not a Monday, not a Wednesday. So again, take it as it resonates. But what I see here for the story is around career, money, finance over the next couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks roughly. But as I said, this is going to be for the period of end of May into June, either way. So what I see here is I feel like in June, as I said, it feels like it's a little longer than the May timeframe. Is it feels like it's going to be more of an internal reckoning. So I feel like your emotional depth is going to also somehow overlap with your financial restructuring. There's some kind of spiritual recalibration going on with you this period from again May to June, but there's also something that kind of speaks to moments of truth and a period of transition. And then there's a period of awakening that kind of comes through here as well. So I feel like you're in some kind of spiritual recalibration, like I said. So there's something here relating around your self-worth. There's something here that kind of speaks to you getting clear on your values, what's important, what's worth protecting, what's worth pursuing, things along that line. So I would still say overall that again, May to June period, because it feels like it's longer than the next 2 weeks for me on this. It does feel like you're at the edge of something around kind of a soulful change of sorts. Now, how I read the cards is, and again, I did sort of pre-poll just for the sake of time. Otherwise, it takes me too long in a day, and I don't have that kind of time. So, Queen of Pentacles can be dealing with. I'll just read sort of the general energy. We'll go through all the clarifiers. This is in around. Could be dealing with your resources here as well. Could be dealing with a mother figure, somebody that you see is very practical, deals with things in a resourceful way. We also have the Six of Cups. Could be energy dealing around reflection, nostalgia, also kind of in a positive way. Could also be it's a positive reflection, but it's something here also in around um sorry, it's coming to me, but I'm just going to leave it for just a second here. But anyway, moving on to the Four of Cups, there's something here around feeling a little bit of disappointment. Now, the only other card here that does speak to the big revolutionary moment here is the Tower. So there is something that's going to kind of rustle you in the period of May to June that's going to be fairly significant, but it kind of leads you to a very positive epiphany moment where something really starts to make sense to you with the Ace of Wands. So now we're just going to go right through to back into the cards with the clarifiers. So again, I feel like you're kind of in that space of clarifying energy is the Two of Pentacles. So it's almost like you're in a state of dual burden. Like you've got something that you're longing to you're longing for with the Six of Cups and that Queen of Pentacles energy originally out there. But it's like the weight of it is almost too complex because we have the Tower with the Seven of Cups. There's your complexity. So there's something there that feels like it's illusions or too many choices or unresolved fears. Mind is confused, not sure how to deal with the situation, how to work through it. Lots of anxiety. Nine of Swords, not the main energy out though. So you still have control over it. Hi, Serena. Hi, Andrea. And so I feel like overall, that Tower moment, and again, it is coupled there with the Seven of Cups, but there's also the energy, the High Priestess. So that tells me that there is this big epiphany moment. There's something that comes through that really helps you to sort of clarify these things. Thank you. I like those cards too. I'll try to find some of my other ones too. I always have piles around, but I'm just, always on the go, not home a lot, busy. Anyway, but I would say here that I feel like there's some kind of necessary spiritual disruption, and that's why the Tower is coming in. Again, it's May to June time frame, but there's a necessary spiritual disruption, something that is an internal shift in you. And oh, thank you on the cards there. But I do feel like it's a necessary disruption spiritually. Like I said, something internally is shifting in you. It's about a shift in your perception. It's something about your trust that alters the way that you engage with the material world. And it's almost like this is an inner truth. So it's like you're realizing, kind of through this philosophical lens, you are not what you possess nor what you protect. You are what you prioritize. So it's something along that line. As far as what I see in terms of finances coming in over the next, couple of months here, I would still say that there's something here where financially I feel like you're at a bit of a crossroads. And again, that's kind of leading into some of this other energy with the Two of Pentacles. You're at some kind of a bit of a crossroads, how you're managing things, you're juggling. But I feel like that long-term shift is starting to form. So that means that there's something here that is showing financial potential, and that's where I get this card here. There's something that's starting to show financial potential. There's more comfort. There's more comfort with yourself, which is going to allow you to feel more resourceful. You're starting to make more grounded decisions about your finances. It's still paired with the Two of Pentacles, so there's still some juggling going on. But we also had the card of the Four of Pentacles. So this is like a bit of a hoarding mentality, hanging on to what you have, fear of financial instability, but it's also leading you to more control. And again, there's more rigidity around the finances that I see here. Now, I also see, and for some reason, I see this comes through as your energy an awful lot here with that Knight of Pentacles, but it also is a slow energy. It's slow, methodical, dealing with finances. You only, but it's not just the Nine of Pentacles or Knight of Pentacles. We also had the Nine of Pentacles. There's a level of independence that you're really wanting here. You're really wanting your finances to improve here. You have the potential to build that financial independence, but only if you release your conflict patterns. And those conflict patterns are within you, and they tend to be around, again, it was that Nine of Swords. And the Nine of Swords is also where they are with the Judgment card. So it's you're standing in your own way. So once you release those judgments of yourself and how things should look, where things should be, how you should look, how that kind of thing. Once you stop reacting to fear, once you stop releasing, toxic thoughts around yourself, that kind of thing, I feel like you're going to come into a position of strong finances, and again, that Tower does bring some kind of an unexpected expense or a realization, but it also somehow frees you into this new pattern of thinking. So it's like it frees you from an illusion about how things were supposed to be around money and your life. And now you are developing more of a responsible financial um, idea about how to go forward. So you might have had a pattern of codependence in some way, but now you're starting to reframe things. You're tracking your beliefs around money. Why do I fear why, something, and why is it never enough? And you're now reframing that to, I am building slow wealth, and I'm starting with myself within and my ideas around money, and I'm not dealing with things out of fear-based survival. I'm now going to do things in a slow, methodical way and wait for it to manifest. I'm going to pay my debts off and do the stuff. That's that kind of energy. I would still say that where you felt financially confident, now you're almost able to visualize that version of yourself, making money decisions. You're now starting to see that, life actually is a little bit, you're almost rehearsing it in a certain way. I'm going to read the information I need to read about the things I want to invest in, or about how I deal with paying off debts and making important financial decisions. I'm going to, go into that state mentally to sort of figure it out. I'm not just going to react. It's that kind of energy. So again, we had the Judgment card. These are cards also very spiritual, but it's also epiphany moments. It's like you finally understand something. You're pushing through there. You're being very quiet about how you go ahead and deal with something, especially with the Seven of Wands, but you still have the upper hand, you still have the control. And Eight of Wands is where there's a lot of energy that's coming through. And again, this could be emotional energy here too, but it's almost like with a Judgment, it's near to the Judgment card. So that is what's coming in really quickly, is the Judgment, the Nine of Swords, the Seven of Swords, the High Priestess, that Four of Cups. All of that is, there's guilt, there's regret, there's unspoken truths, things that you've left unresolved. But now that's the past, and you're not letting that define you anymore. So that's kind of the headspace you're in. So again, the intrusive thoughts are the Nine of Swords. Where you say, I'm not doing enough, I've made too many mistakes. These are just sort of cycling fears and thoughts. It's not, It's not true. It's just true in the moment that you choose to believe it's true. And when once you change your mindset and say, well, I no longer feel that I'm not good enough. I feel like I can do things if I could just keep pushing through it. It's that kind of thing, so now you're starting to, because you realize that these thoughts aren't truth. It's just your state of mind at that moment makes you feel that way. So again, it's not to say you don't go through that. It's a trigger point at some point in this period, but I would still say overall you're awakening from that, and now you're being asked to stop living from those outdated thought patterns and narratives, right? So, you're not your worst enemy. Now you have to become your best ally. It's only a moment. And if it was a worst moment, you can add to the worst moment or you can change that moment. So it's along that line. So the Four of Cups tells me there's still some numbing energy, especially when it's right beside the Nine of Swords and the Seven of Swords and Eight of Wands. But it's like you're quickly recovering from that. So there's something here that is numbing, but again, it's kind of also ignoring some opportunities that might be there, lost because of that state of mind that you're in. So it's time to feel again, not freeze. I would say that, it's the questions again that you have to ask yourself. Is it fact or is it fiction? Is it fact or is it feeling? Things like that. What do you have evidence for that says that it can't be changed? What do you have evidence for that says nobody else has gone through it, and that you can't also go through it and survive it? What would you say to a friend who is saying these things about themselves as well? So again, you're hitting some trigger points. But there's also a level of, self delusion with the Seven of Swords here that's coming through. So there's something here about self deception, secrecy as well, where you're not being fully honest with yourself. But I would also say that with that energy of the Two of Pentacles that came out there earlier, there's still something about overcommitting or being out of sync with your own energy. So again, you're moving away from that, but you're still sort of in that energy. So again, there's kind of mental spirals going on with that Nine of Swords and the Seven of Swords, and it's where you need to stop and challenge your inner dialogue. Interfere with your own thought patterns, because your mind wants to keep you safe by holding you in that pattern, but the reality is that life goes on and you have to keep picking up the pieces and go on as well with it. So there's something along that line. The Four of Pentacles, again, with that Tower moment, does indicate that there is something that you're clinging to, that's for control or security, and it doesn't feel like something's any longer stable, because there's a big expense or something that comes through that kind of throws you off gear and, puts you back into a space of, now I'm fighting a battle again. And then you're reacting from the ego, bringing it back to, oh, this is about me and how I show up in the world. But a lot of times when a Tower moment hits and we're hit with an expense or whatever, it's something to remember that you don't react from ego. Say, well, I fought battles before. I've been able to overcome an awful lot. This is just another one. So it's something here where you actually have to, the biggest obstacle is not external, it's really internal. It's the script you tell yourself that you can't trust yourself, or if you lose this, you lose everything. Like it's all or nothing thinking, when in actual fact, take the next step and the next step and the next step. If it's a bill, you keep chipping it down. If it's something that you need to write a letter about and confront and say, I have a job, I need to continue to do this, whatever you need to, however you need to address it, you need to sort of speak your own truth, because again, it's a learning process. So what I mean by that is, you're choosing truth over protection, and by doing that, it's creating more growth around you, and that creates more safety, not staying in one spot, creating safety. So anyway, when we get back to the Ace of Wands, again, this is something that kind of speaks to new passion, inspiration, feeling alive again. There's a new idea, and it's, follow it. That's what I'm seeing here. Again, when we kind of reflect back to our Queen of Pentacles, again, there's a lot of solid energy here about finances and things happening for you. Something is really starting to work out for you. Whether you see it, you might be able to feel it, because I feel like you're in a numbing state, but something is starting to transition here in this period. And you're realizing that you are more stable than you think you are, and that you have some tools to work with. So there's long-term energy here. There's long-term stability. It's not only possible, it's already forming. So there's something here about The high priestess that kind of speaks to that same energy. Deep intuitive gifts are awakening, and you can trust that inner knowing. So there's a lot of that energy here, especially too, again, you had the judgment come out there, which is big major arcana, especially with the high priestess. You are getting some kind of intuitive breakaway energy that's going to help you to really work through this. You're realizing you can't control all the things, but you can keep moving forward. This is that energy of a massive spiritual breakthrough. You can redefine your story this month and, over the next couple of months. So I feel like what you're releasing is that attachment to guilt and the old outcomes that you think you should have had, and all those inner punishment loops, something like that. Where you need to direct your energy is into the real world, step-by-step planning. That was the Knight of Pentacles and that Ace of Wands. You've got a creative passion. You've got a great idea. Something is coming in here to help you to rebuild. So now you have to figure out, how you address it. You make the phone calls, you do the things. So it's what to build. It's financial stability through grounded choices and emotionally intelligent relationships with money and self-worth. So when you feel better about you and you feel better about money, you'll start to be able to attract those things. If you always think I don't have enough, I'm not enough, then you live in scarcity, you live in fear. So if you lived from a place of I am the gardener, and you're the garden and the gardener. So you're both things. So it's about weeding through the fears and only growing the things that you want to water. So it's things that you want to put time and attention to. That's what you get more of. So tend to the things that are actual truth in the moment. And again, truth changes, but again, when you tell yourself lies about being less than, then you're always fighting you instead of the world. You're fighting you, and then the world complies and gives you more of, you fighting you. So it's more negatives. But either way, I feel from May 31st to maybe into June there, that first couple of weeks, there's going to be something there around you feeling pulled in a lot of directions. But that's, I feel, the time where you need to stabilize and get clear. So you slow it down to get clear. And financially, I feel like, your decisions will emerge through peace, not pressure. And then I feel like your device is what's the one thing that you can commit to today or that day, whatever day this happens, and that supports your long-term peace. Your peace is really important here. Guard your self-talk and try to find moments of peace every day. So what if, instead of asking what if, I want you to ask what now? What do I do now? What's the next thing? What's the next step? So from, again, in moving into that, probably the second week of June, a couple of weeks in on that, they kind of overlap. There's something there of a theme of breaking through. And again, that's where the Judgment card comes through. So it is something about, it's disguised as a bit of a breakdown, but it's actually a breakthrough in about that second week of June. Something collapses, a belief, a lie, an emotional attachment, but it's like you're awakening, and then the new inspiration comes. So there's something here about, only if you're honest with yourself, realizing you have more control and not less. You actually, so if something crumbles and is taken away, how do you rebuild it? How do you get it back? So you let go of that role that you've been playing, and then reconnect with your why. Why do I want to go forward? What is it that I want? What are my values? What do I believe in? What is my passion? What calls to me? What do I like to do? It's radical honesty with yourself, basically, but it's not happening to you, it's happening through you. So again, it's taking a look at all of the things that you believe to be true about yourself and renegotiating something that you have a chance to build from or rebuild from. It's a place of truth, not fear. So that's how I would say around your money sources. It seems like it's a chance to rebuild from a place of truth, not fear. It's around the money. You need to re-anchor your finances in your values and start planning. That's what's happening there. As far as your self-worth, again, I feel like there's some level of, again, you're still really too hard on yourself. You're defining yourself by old wounds and old mistakes. And, this is really about letting your inner knowing, your intuition lead, realizing that there's a wake-up call. How much pain can you put on yourself and still feel healthy? You can't. At some point you have to let it go and say, well, now I'm going to redefine myself and be someone else. I'm going to start, figuring out what I want emotionally, what I want from relationships. How can I present as my best self in work or relationships and in finances? What do I need to know to be the best version of myself? Researching these things. Like, I feel like you're really purpose driven that way. There is some kind of a soul calling to you where an idea is emerging, and I feel like that's your purpose. Don't ignore it. There is something there you're being called to evolve. As far as control, I feel like your control over your attention is what's important, over your narratives, your response to fear. You don't control the outcomes. That's freedom. When you realize that you don't control the outcomes, you only control your next step. And even if your next step didn't amount to the thing that you wanted, it's less about defining you and more about a process of, okay, well, that's just, I learned through that. So I take the next step, and then I do the next step and the next step until it sort of goes in the direction that you're looking at. So again, I always use this analogy, when you're driving, if you took a test and you failed it, you wouldn't say, well, I'm giving up driving altogether. You just figure out another way of how do you correct the situation? What are the letters you need to write? Who is it you need to speak to? How do you um, fix the situation by doing the process, doing your due diligence. Really, it's not something that, because beating yourself up, in a mental state is not, that's not going forward. That's just limiting behavior. We can all do that. We can do it till the end of time, but that's not who we are as humans. We're meant to grow and evolve. So I feel like right now, as I said, I feel like your relationships, there's a complex, emotionally charged situation going on there. A lot of transition for sure in the month of June. I feel like there's a strong theme of internal withdrawal, still quiet, still observing. There's still some emotional conflict around you or within you, and still I feel kind of dealing with a level of emotionally withholding. So still not ready to fully embrace or deal with things. I don't think that you feel emotionally safe or understood just yet, but I think the important thing is that you feel emotionally safe with yourself and understood, that, and then eventually that other people start to see that in you, and then they start to trust that you trust yourself. So again, I feel like you're surrounded by others, but you still feel alone. So there's a need for deeper connection, but there's a fear and a vulnerability that's still present. So I feel like, again, we had sort of that Nine of Swords energy. There was also that moon energy that's kind of coming through there. This speaks to feeling more than you show. I still feel like, you know, you may feel some guilt still around past connections there as well with the Six of Cups. Blaming yourself for how something unfolded, breakup, friendship, family pain, something that hasn't healed. But again, I mean, there's only so much time that you have on this earth. So, you have to take the next step forward and say, well, there's some things I can't control. The past I definitely can't control. So what's the next step I can do, that prompts me to build the things I want to see? I can't resolve what's unresolved in my memory. I can only reframe it. So if I knew how to do better, I would have done better. So you can forgive yourself and allow yourself to evolve. So again, there's still levels of distrust. Again, we had that Seven of Swords energy out there. But you are getting an epiphany moment. There's something that's going to kind of break you apart. You feel really like you're falling apart, and then you kind of pull it back together again. So, like I said, the Seven of Swords, Seven of Wands, Five of Swords, these are cards of conflict, deception, real or perceived. It's just how you believe it to be. Again, it's an emotional defense of some sort, but you may suspect betrayals, and you may also be in that space. Thank you for the hearts. But you may also be in that space where you're resisting advice or emotional closeness as well. So, because you may perceive it as manipulation, but it's not. It's just how you're framing it. So you feel like you have to protect yourself from everyone. So you create all these boundaries and without shutting down, or you are shutting down. But I feel like if you did reframe it, you would be able to open up more, basically. So either way, I still feel like there's some distance. You don't quite understand it. There are people around you that want to reach out gently. I feel like there's some kind of emotional openness that will start, but likely it's confused. And so you're still in a bit of withdrawal. I feel like the Eight of Wands that came in there, that's a really good card too. A good card for information, things coming in. But I still feel like in this space, it's you attempting to connect with or initiate some kind of dialogue or communication. But it still feels a little overwhelming for you. So I feel like you might see it as intrusive in responding, but I feel like, again, you're slowly unfolding, I guess is what I want to say there. There is still possibly a romantic partner or a sibling or a close friend or someone where truth is being withheld or someone feels misunderstood or unheard. Feels like a power struggle with one or more people. I do feel like you have one stable presence that's here, and that's with the Queen of Pentacles. Again, this could be a mother figure. This could also be, feels like it's external to you though, because the Queen of Pentacles is a pretty grounded, resourceful person. Somebody who's, very does the right thing. So this is someone that's nurturing as well and consistent in your life. And it feels like this is a quiet anchor for you through any kind of emotional storm. I still feel in terms of your relationships, like I say, there's a fear of vulnerability. You're afraid to open up. You feel like it'll get used against you, something like that. There's still a level of emotional reactivity or shutdown with that Tower and the Five of Swords. So it might be exploding into conflict, but just for a brief moment. It's not the main energy out here. Actually, I think the Tower was the main energy out there, but it feels short-lived anyway. But either way, I still feel like you're clinging to the past. There's nostalgia, unresolved grief, and it seems to be influencing the present. That was the Six of Cups. You do have some trust issues here still present. That's the fear of betrayal, abandonment, which leads to avoidance and shutdown emotionally. But what's good in this month, and let's stay on the good, is your hidden potential, the Judgment card. That Judgment card offers you a chance to heal karmic wounds in relationships. And that is a huge, huge thing. It's like when you are able to shift the narrative, there's something there that changes in a very big way. So this is the hidden potential with the high priestess and the Judgment. It's hidden. So this is a powerful chance for you to heal karmic wounds and relationships this month, May to October, because you're getting a mirror for healing, and it's going to heal up the old emotional contracts if you so choose it. The Page of Cups means it's a small step. And the Queen of Pentacles could be also dealing with a mother figure or a Queen of Pentacles or someone who represents as somebody you can trust or an anchor. But either way, it suggests that there's some kind of tenderness or a loyalty that's still around you, and it allows you some kind of healing, and emotional reciprocity starts. So there's something here with the Eight of Wands that implies there's a communication or breakthrough that happens rather quickly, whether you initiate it or somehow you open up to it. And then I feel like your response is what you have control over in terms of your relationships. Maybe I should phrase it better that way, is that you cannot control how others feel, but you can choose to be vulnerable, honest when you're ready, and you can put up some boundaries, not walls, but boundaries means you invite a respectful conversation where things can be clear and move things ahead. If it turns into something that's not positive, doesn't have to be all positive. You can make, small steps along that journey, not dealing with all issues all at once, but just dealing with small bits at a time. Then it's done in a respectful way, dealing with the issues. So how do you rewrite that inner story that you tell yourself about I'm always misunderstood, to I'm learning how to speak with courage, and it's okay if people disagree with me, and not to personalize it. So you can still feel deeply without losing control. You can still honor the past because you're not bound to it. You're always evolving. So you have to have an honest connection that begins with, I am being myself. And because I'm being myself, that's how I want to present in the world. And so if somebody disagrees with that and says, well, I don't like you, well, so what? It doesn't matter. If you like yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Next. So you're releasing the fear that closeness leads to pain. And I feel like you're choosing to become more clear about things and not conceal everything about yourself. So again, the tone overall for the May to June period is still withdrawal. It's still introspective. You're nostalgic. You're still quietly hurting, but I feel like your relationships are a complex mix of things. Like there's trust, there's distrust, there's unspoken emotions, and some suppressed needs still there. But I feel like the obstacles, all those past wounds and the things that you were avoiding, and those issues of self blame and things around trust, those are the obstacles you have to work through. And again, it's reframe it. Who would I be if I allowed myself to feel again? Who would I be if I allow myself to be vulnerable with people and open up to love? Who would I be if I don't let myself be defined by past wounds? And yes, I went through some hard times, but that's not who I am now. I am more than my past. It's how do I trust again? How do I speak? Um, what's important to me and the values that are important to me, and see if there's some way of negotiating with the people around me. So, what are your hidden strengths? Your hidden strengths are your ability to build trust and loyalty and support systems. You do have very strong intuition, which helps you to get clear on things, and it helps you to move the path forward. So, I feel like there's vulnerability in truth telling, meaning, there's a certain level of rebuilding your emotional trust. That's what I feel, which will help you to communicate. That's how the path forward will look if you allow it, if you choose it in this next period. So, one step at a time. And again, I just still feel like, you're still in a place of some huge epiphany. And again, there's some kind of a bit of an emotional breakdown that you go through, and then it's like everything starts to make more sense to you. So that's what I have for you coming in. Again, it's going to be more through the May to June period, kind of overlapping there. But keep moving forward, guys. Never give up. Life is to be lived every day. Find a way to breathe new life into every day.